Great to see everyone tonight. Here we are again to do our question and answer, which is kind of morphed into a discussion. And so again, we have Shay. Great to have Shay. And Austin. Great to have Austin again tonight. So we're going to be dealing with a fascinating subject tonight, the false prophet from Revelation 13, 11, and following. So let's kind of look at this and have a couple of questions to jump into here. So Shay, if you'll kind of read us our first question. I think this first question is one that you came up with anyway. So yes. Why don't you present that and we'll talk about that for a moment.
My question was about the beginning of chapter 13 and the description of the second beast, where it says he had two horns like a lamb and he spoke as a dragon. What's the significance of the reference to the horns like a lamb? Jesus is referred to as the lamb, and so is this just another one of Satan's tactics to try to imitate Christ and deceive even the elect?
Yes. Ready for the next question?
Yes. I love a quick answer. Yes.
The answer is yes, but there is a little more to it than that. So
Okay.
let's kind of talk about that. Now, what is the significance of the horns? In fact, let's go ahead and read this. So Austin, if you don't mind, read Revelation 13, verses 11 and 12, and that'll help us to answer these questions, which we've said, yes, it is Satan deceiving, and so that's what is going on here. But there's a lot to it, I think, that we can look at.
11 and 12?
Yes.
Okay. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. He exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and he makes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose fatal wound was healed.
Okay. So you have another beast coming up out of the earth. Now remember, the first beast came up out of the sea. This beast comes up out of the earth. And but anyway, here this beast comes up, and he has two horns like a lamb, but how did he speak?
Like a dragon.
Dragon. Okay. Now, a lot of stuff going on here. First of all, horns represent strength and power throughout the Bible. I must confess, I'm not really sure why the horns are here. Like I said, it represents strength and power, so it probably represents the power of this individual and his strength. And who is this individual? What do we refer to him as? He's the second beast. The first beast is the Antichrist. So who is this beast?
False prophet.
Right, the false prophet. And so the horns probably represent his power, but the lamb represents something too. The lamb represents the fact that he is head of a religious system. So the false prophet is producing this religious system that is going to follow and lift up the Antichrist, and in turn bring worship to Satan. So this is kind of what you have going on here. Now, okay, he's a lamb, he's a religious leader, has power, okay. And the question is, he spoke like a dragon. Who is a dragon? Remember that?
Satan.
Right, Satan. You both get an A for that one. But that's a hard question to answer. So there you go. So he speaks like a dragon, and so Satan is leading his speech. And in the speech, he is leading to the worship of Satan, and he's lifting up the Antichrist. The false prophet is supporting the Antichrist. And you asked the question here, Jesus is referred to as a lamb. And so is this another way Satan tries to imitate Christ? And yes, it is a way he tries to imitate Christ and trying to deceive the elect.
So when you got, I don't mean to interrupt, but when it says horns like a lamb and speaks as a dragon, is that kind of, the way I can take it in one way is like the horns of the lamb represent his outside appearance, but as he speaks as a dragon shows his true demeanor.
His heart.
That is exactly right. That is an excellent way, because he comes across as a lamb, a religious leader.
Mm-hmm. Peace, false sense of peace.
Peace, and he's directing worship towards the Antichrist. But he is satanically inspired, and he has a goal here. In fact, read Matthew 24:24, because this question also we asked.
What is the scripture that says what comes out of his mouth comes from his heart?
Yes, and I can't remember the reference right now.
Yeah, but that's what that made me think of when you said that.
That it is out of the heart comes deception, murders, and things of that
That
nature.
was the first thing that I thought of when I read that passage when it said horns of a lamb. It's kind of like just give an out, you know, it's like the devil always does. He always comes as the handsome man or the beautiful woman, but you know, has a different motive behind everything. But anyways, 24:24, for false Christs and false prophets will arise and will show great signs and wonders, so as to mislead, if possible, even the elect.
If I got a vaccination, could the mark of the beast or something like that be in there? The answer to that question is you will have no possibility of taking the mark of the beast by accident. There'll be no ambiguity. There will be no chance of, oh man, I slipped up and took the mark of the beast. I didn't. You're going to swear allegiance to say, let's kind of put all this together. Okay. We make the image of the beast, or the earth dwellers make the, not we, the earth dwellers make the image of the beast. The false prophet calls it to come to life, gives it breath, so to speak, and even kill as many as do not take the image of the beast and do not worship him. And so you are coerced into taking the mark of the beast, but you do it willingly, okay? And then you'll be able to buy or sell or trade, which is a great motivation if you think about it, because what is going to happen to those? We already said they're going to be killed. Think of it. Think of the destitute nature of not being able to buy anything. Can you imagine if you couldn't go to the store today?
We got a very, very, very small taste of that with this COVID.
Yeah.
And even though it seems big because the shelves are empty, it was a very small taste of it. So, yeah.
Except for toilet paper.
Yeah. Yeah. So, think of that temptation. Okay. All I got to do to be able to participate is to take the mark of the beast. Okay?
And that'll be very, very evident. This is what you're doing. You can't mistake it as anything else.
Yeah.
I think it'll be in my mind, because God wants us to have that choice, we will know for sure what choice we're making, because to not deny it will be making a choice.
Yeah. Also, let me ask you this question. As we are at this point of the tribulation, do you think it will be very evident who God is and who Satan is?
Mm-hmm.
I
think
so.
it'll be kind of weird. I think it'll be more evident who they are, but there'll be more ignorance than ever.
There'll be a lot of ignorance, and we are getting more and more ignorant. But the sides are not blurred at this time. It's very clear. Mm-hmm. When you take this, you're swearing allegiance to Satan. You know what you're doing. And this is kind of a unique time. We'll talk about this in weeks to come. But there'll be 2 witnesses out there in front of the temple telling people not to take the mark of the beast. There'll be 144,000 Jewish witnesses telling people, don't do this. There'll even be angels circling the globe. This is amazing. We get this in chapter 14. Saying, if anyone takes the mark of the beast or his name or his image, he'll be burned up with fire forever and ever. Can you imagine? I mean, it's not like you can't do this by accident. So one thing's about the book of Revelation too. Like, we don't see right now the angels or demons around us.
That's what I was just thinking too.
Something happens during the time of the tribulation. Something happens to the veil between the physical world and the spiritual world. And you see it over and over and over. We can spend a whole subject talking about this. That is a fascinating thing to me, that the veil between the physical and the spiritual world grows very, very, very thin at that time. And not only will it grow thin at that time, but a lot of times it is crossed. Now, this is because God allows it to. He is doing some.
Do you think that'll have to do with any kind of new technology?
I don't think that's technology. I think that's the technology may be used.
That's that what you when you say the magical spiritual aspect of things.
Yeah, it's just the Spirit of God at work, and He is the physical world is kind of has a look at the spiritual world because these things are growing really thin, and I think the other reason is because people are about to go into the spiritual world, either good or bad, but they're getting ready to go. And it's not just by death now how people go. They're getting ready to cross over into that. But anyway, that's kind of the subject. But anyway, hey, we've come about as far as we can go tonight, maybe even a few minutes longer. So thank you for joining us, and thank you so much, Shay and Austin, and we had a great discussion tonight.
Yes, sir.
God bless. Thank you for staying almost 10 o'clock.
Is it almost 10?
No, it's not. I didn't realize, the prayer time was.
So, better?
I think so. What do you think?
I think we ramped up our discussion.
Well,
I think we enjoyed the topic at hand.
that's a big image that is going to be put in the temple. It's definitely going to do that. But some people look at this and think there's going to be like little images people have in their homes. And so, really, as weird as it sounds, a form of idolatry will come back during this time. The Antichrist, the greatest political leader in the world, hello, we are deifying him. And it's pretty shocking, isn't it, if you think about that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it sounds too far-fetched. I think in a world like the chaos that we're already experiencing right now, I could see how it would be real easy for somebody to come on the scene in the lawlessness and be like a saving the day kind of person.
And he's not going to be a president or a ruler of one individual country or nation. He's this point. It's one world order, right?
Yeah,
he's going to be the world.
It's the president of the world.
Yeah, so
the king of the world, so to speak.
It's not like we're talking about the president of the United States or something like that. It's a bigger picture. So you have a sense of pride not only in one area but all across the world to this individual.
Yeah. Now, one thing we probably do need to keep in mind is the fact that the Antichrist, and this is how you actually get the Battle of Armageddon. We're going to talk about that tonight, but the Antichrist does have kind of political problems that will come. But in the beginning, it's pretty smooth sailing for him early. And now it's interesting. So he gives life. So it's almost like this thing of, probably technology's there, but also it would almost seem as there's a certain amount of magic in it too. There's a certain spiritual power that he's doing. Because read verse 15 again.
And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause as many as to do not worship the image of the beast to be killed.
Yeah. And so if it were all AI, and definitely AI, I think probably plays a part in it. But if it's kind of almost life in addition to being this, some people look at this and say, okay, this is half man, half machine type deal.
Yeah, like a hybrid.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you got this, I understand what you're saying with AI, and I agree to that. I do. But at the same time, if we're dealing with the same man that can bring fire from the heavens down to earth, he could bring life to a statue. I mean, that's not going to be far-fetched.
Yeah. And the way it kind of incorporates, apparently, the technology and the other part of it, it's, and we don't know these details. We're just kind of speculating here. But let me ask you this. How long has the technology for this existed in the world?
Not a long time, but it's been around a decent amount. But I wouldn't call it old technology.
10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Okay. What I'm getting at is this. The window, when you put all the signs together for the return of the Lord, is a very small window. The sign of all signs for the Lord's return, the super sign, is Israel. Mm-hmm. Okay. Israel didn't exist until 1948. There's kind of a bookends. People ask me, well, how do you know? First of all, what does the Bible say? No one knows the day of the hour. Never
the clock
set
is ticking.
dates. Yes, never set dates. Okay. But having said never set dates, people ask me, what is unusual about the day and time in which we live? What is unusual more than anything else about the day and time in which we live is the learning curve, the vertical learning curve. How fast learning, and I'm not just talking about technology, it's a big part of other types of learning too. So,
Even right now, we're doing question and answer via the internet for church.
yeah.
This didn't happen 10, 15, 20 years ago, really.
No, it didn't happen. And, guys, like somebody Austin's age, basically, maybe not quite, but kind of you grew up with technology. Okay.
Yeah.
Shay, it kind of hit you, at, maybe 20.
College.
Okay. Me, it hit me, when I'm, 50. Okay. So, and guys like me are a lot slower to use it anyway. So maybe really hit me till 55 with the flip phone. But at any rate, what I'm saying is this generation right now, these kids that'll actually probably be involved in the doing of this is all they've ever known. And so it's second nature to them.
And they don't see anything wrong with it because it's so integrated into our everyday lives.
What they cannot, and I think this is important, what they cannot understand is how unique the time they live in is.
Because it's so normal to them.
In his 6,000 years of recorded history, the window of opportunity for this to happen is 10, 15 years. And I will say this, there are prophecies that I believe too. We couldn't do it up until now. Here's the interesting thing, and we're not going to do this tonight. There are also prophecies limiting how long this window of opportunity is open. I'm not talking about technology, but because of other things, such as this generation shall not pass away. That's kind of interesting. And they get ethnos there, we're not getting that tonight, but the whole thing of what a generation means and everything, sometimes people will say, well, it talks about the Jewish people as a whole. Yeah, I think that's part of it. But in prophecy, never forget, prophecies, Old Testament prophecies, look for the first coming of Jesus Christ, but also mixed in them was the second coming of Jesus Christ. I think it'll help us answer that question.
All right.
Okay. So, for years and years, people look at this passage and they would think the image of the beast was a statue. Okay. If you read it carefully, it's not a statue because it seems to come to life. And so, is it possible to make an image in today's day and age that appears to be human, appears to be lifelike, and comes to life?
Yeah, it's like we talked about before, the artificial intelligence.
Yeah. So it probably is possible to do that. So the earth dwellers, I don't think every single earth dweller is on this, but this is a pretty big project.
Right.
I mean, it's almost as if they are commissioned by the false prophet. Let's make an image to the beast. And you can see all the technology, all the companies, everything there kind of working to make this thing and to create it. So when you get the question exactly what is the image of the beast, and the answer to that question is we don't know.
So we don't know what kind of form it's going to take, whether it's a technology type form or if they try to make it to be like a human form, or.
And it may be a little bit of both. It may be kind of technological, and it might be kind of some type of transhumanistic.
Because we've seen AI go both ways, where it's just like as robotic as it can be without having any kind of human extremities or anything like that, and then we've seen it where they look just like a human being, so.
And you think about how many times in the past our parents or grandparents saw movies from years ago and thought, oh, that could never happen,
Yeah, science
I'll watch
fiction
you
is
talk
reality
into,
now.
well, I have one on, and the things that we've seen even now with entertainment that look like AI.
I think The Simpsons did that the best.
Well, let me ask you this question. I do like your discussion, your thoughts there. How was John able to write this 2,000 years ago? And clearly the inspiration of the Holy Spirit.
That's the only explanation I can think of.
God gave him visions
And so, yes, I think it is. Remember, the revelation is a vision he is seeing. He is seeing this.
And what a good job he did with the words, because how would he know how to describe that with the words that he
That's
had
where the
available?
inspiration of the Holy Spirit came in.
Yes.
Because he's having to write something with there was nothing like, to describe these things that time. And so he has to write these things in the language that he has. But so go ahead and read verse 15 if you would, Austin. Let's talk about the rest of this question. This is a fascinating question.
All right. And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed.
Now, who is the he that gives breath or life to the image of the beast?
That be, it's either the
false.
Antichrist or the false prophet.
False prophet.
False
It's
prophet.
the false prophet,
Okay.
yeah.
Now,
And go ahead.
if we sit here in this world and we think, oh, Antichrist is so horrible, that's what we focus on, without getting into the Bible. Antichrist. Where's the Antichrist in all this? It seems like the false prophet's doing everything.
Well, he's doing a lot, but the Antichrist is obviously going to be seen. Think of this. Okay, the Antichrist basically comes on the scene as a political leader. Okay. In fact, we talk about the fact that he wages war. He's really not in the beginning a military leader. He's a political. What he does in the beginning is he comes and gets a treaty.
He's slick.
Yeah, he's slick. Well, think of it. Okay, the rapture of the church has occurred. Exactly what do you think life on earth is going to be like after the rapture of the church occurs? Think of the world we live in. There's
no sunshine, no birds chirping, gloom, depression.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they'll know. I wonder if there will be some sort of blindness or something on the people that are still here.
Well, I don't know how you could not notice when millions and millions of people are suddenly gone, especially in certain things. But anyway, what the Antichrist, I think, does is he comes together and he pulls a real political coup. After the rapture, look at the state the world's in today. We are clamoring for a leader to come. Can you imagine things getting worse and worse? The rapture occurs, Christians are gone. I mean, worse on earth, obviously, not worse for believers. But so the Antichrist comes, puts everything back together. He gets peace, he gets a treaty between the Israelis and the Muslims and the people that be opposed to Israel. So he comes in and he's a political genius. He does this. Well, what's really pretty amazing is, think of this. The religious leader, the false prophet, comes and says, hey, let's build a statue of the Antichrist. Let's build an image of the beast. This is idolatry. He's building this so they can worship him. And there are some people that think that the image of the beast is not just... It's interesting because they're both false Christs and false prophets will arise, showing false signs and wonders, so if even possible, to mislead the elect, to deceive the elect. And so that's exactly what you have here. You have a false prophet, and he is deceiving, and he is drawing worship to the Antichrist, and really worship to Satan. So kind of introduces him kind of in a very unique way there. So.
I bet that line right there is going to be played over and over and over again these times. That verse right there.
Yes, it will. And that's an excellent point, because he is deceiving, and that's how Satan always works. It's about deception. Mm-hmm. So we have kind of a little discussion thing, I think, coming up. So with a kind of series of questions. So Shay, you want to kind of move into that one?
Sure. By whose authority does the false prophet make fire come down from heaven from Revelation 13:13?
And you want to read that? This is interesting, because one of the things the false prophet does is he has power to do certain things. So read that verse.
He performs great signs so that he even makes fire come down out of heaven to earth in the presence of men.
Does that remind you of anybody in the Old Testament? Elijah the prophet?
Yes, now that you said that.
Yes. And, so he is, and so the question is, who gives him the power to do this?
Satan? Or the Antichrist?
Yeah. Where does all power ultimately come from?
God.
God.
All power ultimately comes
This
from God.
is he's still restraining though, but he gives him like leeway, like a leash, right?
Yes. This power directly, I think, comes from Satan, because it says the dragon gives him authority. And it's really interesting because in the first half of Revelation 13, I think it'll 4 times say of the Antichrist, and such was given him. Authority was given him.
Yeah.
Okay. When you come down to the second one, the false prophet, the second beast, false prophets, I believe 3 times it will say that power is given to him to do various things if you count through that. And to me, that is really fascinating, that between the beast and the false prophet in chapter 13, 7 times it says that power is given to them. And so, yes, this authority comes from Satan. But Satan is, like you said, Satan is on a leash, so his authority only goes so far. So maybe the question is, why does God give Satan, or ultimately Satan giving it to the Antichrist or giving it to the false prophet, why does he give them this power? If it ultimately comes from God, then why does God allow them to do this?
I think it's just like any other reason why God allows things to happen. We talked about fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, and that's the number one thing, to fulfill the prophecy, and it is being fulfilled.
And he wants it to be a choice. He wants us to choose him.
Yes, those are the 2 reasons. You both got it right. Those are the 2 reasons. There you go. Then to fulfill prophecy, because whatever God says will come true. And then secondly, to test us, to give us a choice.
All goes back down to obedience.
Yes, it really does. Very, very, very true. I could add, I'm not going to, it's not going to go there tonight, but that because Jesus Christ was rejected the first time, then almost the Antichrist has to come in place of Christ, because they rejected Christ. So the question is, will they ultimately accept or reject the Antichrist? And you'll see some saved and some won't. Some will, some won't. The Bible says about Israel, ultimately all Israel will be saved, but a lot will die before they get to that point. So anyway. But why don't we move on to the next part of that question?
So Revelation 13:14 says, "And he deceives those who dwell on the earth because of the signs which it was given him to perform in the presence of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast, who had the wound of the sword and has come to life." And the question that came out of that was, who are the earth dwellers that make the image of the beast, and what exactly is that image?
Well, let's deal with this one at a time. Who are the earth dwellers that are told to make the image of the beast? What are the earth dwellers?
People that don't accept Christ.
Yeah, they're the ones that those that dwell in heaven are raptured. Then you have earth dwellers, and even not everybody left on the earth then is an earth dweller. An earth dweller. Go ahead.
The earth dwellers, like we talked about before, those are the people that are going to stay, that live within the world and are of the world,
yes,
of the earth.
Because of those that live on the earth, the tribulation saints will be saved out of it. So they really, even though they're on planet Earth, they're technically not earth dwellers. You're right, they will stay with the system. So the earth dwellers is these that reject Christ that make the image of the beast. Now this is fascinating, because we think that the Antichrist, or the false prophet, makes the image of the beast.
And I think we talked about this earlier today. With all the earth dwellers, do you think there's a certain select few that would be responsible specifically for creating the image?
Well, let's talk about that. Let's come back this way. What exactly is the image of the beast? Now, prophecies a lot of times have double meanings and stuff. So, and I will say this to skeptics. You can laugh at this if you want to, but trust me, nobody's good enough to guess this stuff 2,000 years ago, like John did. You know, we live in a time in which there really should be something that draws us to Christ, because if we don't listen to this, he's going to get our attention another way. So anyway, okay, let's go to the third question.
Let's see, verse 18 says, "Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. Okay, so there's a lot of details that we don't understand in prophecy, Revelation, all this that we've been discussing. But this specifically says that we should calculate the number of the beast and that it's the number of man and it's 666. So with those details given, how do we calculate that? I mean, I know that we've talked about and discussed that 7 is the number of perfection and completeness. So 6 obviously is incomplete. But I don't understand what it means when it says we should calculate the number of the man.
Yeah, is it going to be, and I think this goes can tie into our conversation earlier today over the phone, is it going to be, you tell us to take the Bible literal, but the Antichrist and the false prophet are going to be pretty slick. And I think it's even safe to say, even some atheists, if you put 666 directly, legit across their forehead or their hand, they might go along with it, but even they would be like, So is it going to be that blunt, or when it says calculate, is it going to be given like some kind of code that equals out to 666 or?
Okay, that's a lot of good questions here. First of all, I would say, yes, number one, 666 an icon. You might not know anything about the book of Revelation at all, but that may be the most known thing, is the mark of the beast, the number 666. And everybody's kind of afraid of those numbers. If I'm okay, get your change from a $10 bill, $6.66. Oh, give me 665 or 667 or something, just don't give me.
Pump lands on it, you squeeze the nozzle one more time.
Yeah.
Or we're showing our age. If you write a check for something, you never write it for 666.
Yeah, that's right.
People don't write checks anymore.
Yeah. Okay. But, so, yes, that is a very iconic thing. Everybody knows the mark of the beast. And even people that don't believe in it kind of laugh about it. And it's kind of funny. That's why I don't believe it. But they will hedge away from it. It's kind of strange. I've seen, now you have the guys, obviously, I'll show 6, I don't care. But the number 6, and really you answered the question. But let's go back through this way you answered it. The number 6 is a number of incompletion. It is a number of we're almost there, but not quite. And that's the thing with God and man. Man's almost there, but he's never quite there. He's always living up to it, but he's never perfect. And that's because man is created in the image of God, but that image has been broken and distorted and all of those things. So
it made me think of, in these last couple of chapters, we've been talking about Satan, Antichrist, and the false prophet. Okay, there's 3 of those. This is talking about 3 6s. So all 3 of those will be pretty good and they'll look slick and you'll think that they're okay, but they're still incomplete.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what you're doing. And you're right. I have talked about taking the Bible literally, and I do think that's important. But the point here, and there's all kinds of things. Some people said the mark of the beast, 666 will represent, like how many digits does your Social Security number have? Let's see, is it 9 or so?
The ones we use?
Social Security.
8.
8 digits. Okay, 8 digits. There you go. 8. Tell you what I'm listening to. But at any rate, okay, so with 18 digits, think of everybody in the world. The number of number combinations. Somebody said it'll be, we have 6 digits, 6 more digits, and 6 more digits. We don't know anything about that. So there's all kinds of ideas of how this will be. It does say, your forehead, hand, or your head. Mm-hmm. So, we do know that, and that's real. So somehow you hear things about.
But you don't think it's going to be 666 just written out as plain as day?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't see what, but it is his number. He is incomplete. That is Satan, the Antichrist, the false prophet. And like you said, and so it is the number of a man. It is not the number of God. And that's what it is saying here. No matter how much technology, no matter how much it does, this number is the number of man. It is never the number of God. And clearly, the Scripture tells us that what's going to happen to those who take the mark of the beast?
Go to hell.
Yeah.
They're going to die. And all of them 100%. There is no exception. Let me just say this too. I hear some people say, well, could I actually take the mark of the beast? Or if I got a vaccination, could the mark of the beast or something like that be in there? The answer to that question is you will have no possibility of taking the mark of the beast by accident. There'll be no ambiguity. There will be no chance of, oh man, I slipped up and took the mark of the beast. I didn't. You're going to swear allegiance to say, let's kind of put all this together. Okay. We make the image of the beast. The earth dwellers make the earth dwellers make the image of the beast. The false prophet calls it to come to life, gives it breath, so to speak, and even kill as many as do not take the image of the beast and do not worship him. And so you are coerced into taking the mark of the beast, but you do it willingly, okay? And then you'll be able to buy or sell or trade, which is a great motivation if you think about it. Because what is going to happen to those who are going to be killed? Think of it. Think of the destitute nature of not being able to buy anything. Can you imagine if you couldn't go to the store today?
We got a very, very, very small taste of that with this COVID.
Yeah.
And even though it seems big because the shelves are empty, it was a very small taste of it. So, yeah.
Except for toilet paper.
Yeah. Yeah. So, think of that temptation. Okay. All I got to do to be able to participate is to take the mark of the beast. Okay.
And that'll be very, very evident. This is what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You can't mistake it as anything else.
Yeah.
I think it'll be in my mind, because God wants us to have that choice, we will know for sure what choice we're making. Because to not deny it, we'll be making a choice.
Yeah. Also, let me ask you this question. As we are at this point of the tribulation, do you think it will be very evident who God is and who Satan is?
Mm-hmm. I think
so.
it'll be kind of weird. I think it'll be more evident who they are, but there'll be more ignorance than ever.
There'll be a lot of ignorance, and we are getting more and more ignorant. But the sides are not blurred at this time. It's very clear. Mm-hmm. When you take this, you're swearing allegiance to Satan. You know what you're doing. And this is kind of a unique time. We'll talk about this in weeks to come. But there'll be 2 witnesses out there in front of the temple telling people not to take the mark of the beast. There'll be 144,000 Jewish witnesses telling people, don't do this. There'll even be angels circling the globe. This is amazing. We get this in chapter 14. Saying, if anyone takes the mark of the beast or his name or his image, he'll be burned up with fire forever and ever. Can you imagine? I mean, it's not like you can't do this by accident. So one thing's about the book of Revelation too. Like, we don't see right now the angels or demons around us.
That's what I was just thinking too.
Something happens during the time of the tribulation. Something happens to the veil between the physical world and the spiritual world. And you see it over and over and over. We can spend a whole subject talking about this. That is a fascinating thing to me, that the veil between the physical and the spiritual world grows very, very, very thin at that time. And not only will it grow thin at that time, but a lot of times it is crossed. Now, this is because God allows it to. He is doing some...
Do you think that'll have to do with any kind of new technology?
I don't think that's technology. I think that's the technology may be used.
That's that what you when you say the magical spiritual aspect of things.
Yeah. It's just the Spirit of God at work, and He is the physical world is kind of has a look at the spiritual world, because these things are growing really thin, and I think the other reason is because people are about to go into the spiritual world. Either good or bad, but they're getting ready to go. And it's not just by death now how people go. They're getting ready to cross over into that. But anyway, that's kind of the subject. But anyway, hey, we've come about as far as we can go tonight, maybe even a few minutes longer. So thank you for joining us, and thank you so much, Shay and Austin, and we had a great discussion tonight.
Yes, sir.
God bless.